just in sports in general, one of the things that I've absolutely become sick to death of are all of these. I mean, and it really is. It's an incestuous gaggle of low quality people. I'm just going to make that clear right now. Because you almost have to get anywhere in this realm. These media guys who they I don't know exactly why, but they always have. They have all of these plans that should be carried out by all of these teams and these players, and this incessant repetition of pay him what he deserves. Oh my God.
What's up, everyone? Today, one homeboy, Doug Hofstrom, and your favorite teacher, Professor Phill, back at it again. Philly, them Timberwolves, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's probably the most fun thing going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, at least if you're a Minnesota sports fan, I mean, we actually have a good male professional team for the first time in how long? Because the Lynx, like, I know they've won like 3 championships in a row, and I didn't even hear about them till they won their second one, but that's been a little bit now.
What are you referring to the WNBA team?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't count. The only Minnesota championships we have in the Big Four pro leagues are the Twins World Series wins. We have no trips to this. Well, we've got 4 losses in the Super Bowl from the Vikings back in the 70s. The old North Stars, they made it. Yeah, they made it to the finals and lost to the Penguins once. The Wild haven't made it to a final. And then if
new soccer team probably hasn't done much
really
either.
go back to the early days, you've got the Minneapolis Lakers in the 50s.
Yeah,
I don't know. They won
I don't know if
6 or something.
Yeah, I don't know if those guys.
We don't
count,
really.
to be honest.
No, we that went with the franchise out to L.A. I mean, it happened here, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I just had to bring it up. And this is someone who doesn't even watch basketball, but you don't need to understand a thing about basketball to know that the Timberwolves defense had the Denver Nuggets on full fucking lockdown last night.
It was something to watch.
It really was.
I saw post game 1 some commentary. I can't remember who it was, but I actually think it was our local guys. They were talking about how the Wolves sped Jokic up, picking him up full court when he was bringing the ball up, which they run a certain part of the time. And then
they were wearing him down.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the conditioning these guys do.
He has conditioning for what he's usually done and been successful with. Dealing with
but
this
not
group
on this
of guys
level of conditioning
that are
is what
this
I'm saying.
Committed.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they're wearing him out. And boy, I had Jamal Murray. I was a big fan last year. I just wanted it to. I mean, to watch the Nuggets win a championship after sweeping the Lakers out of the conference finals. That was the perfect end for anybody who actually likes basketball and is happy to see that we're seeing a return, and it had to happen eventually. There's being a return to a more team-oriented outlook, which is proving itself valid to dismantle the play styles of these teams that have been assembled through basically social media polls and the infantile desires of players, who have a lot of ad deals. I mean, it really has been a ridiculous parade of nonsense this past 15 years. And to see this series where you've got these two teams that don't have these guys that have all this, deliberate promotion of their individual, stardom or whatever. It's just nice to see groups of guys who are just playing the best basketball, and it's showing
for sure.
Yeah, this assemblage of diva plus fellow MVP candidate plus Supermax guy who was the best player on his old team. I mean, this stuff has been awful. It made my stomach churn the first time I saw it. and it's been hard to watch basketball ever since. And it feels like it's
finally turned a
making
corner.
a turn.
Yeah.
Finally.
It's finally pivoting on the correct foot.
And the worst part of it is,
and the Timberwolves are the ones that started it.
The worst part of it is that these current names, I'm not even going to bother saying any other names because everybody knows who they are. The ones that are on their, they're on their exit leg. They're not a lot of years left. And each one of them was a self-promoter, allusions to, this stupid GOAT label. And I think that they've kind of played themselves right out of any conversation of even being mentioned with the guys that I know I fell in love with, Magic and Bird. And I watched Jordan because it was so amazing. I hated him because I was a Lakers fan until we got the Timberwolves because we didn't have a basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember watching a lot of Laker playoff games. Magic Johnson, god dang, man, was that fun to watch. And then just that entire group in the 90s with the way they played basketball then and the physical toll. I mean, those guys, it was verging on none of these guys. Maybe
the flop
if they had
didn't
been,
exist back then, but the level of athletes has increased by a lot. Your average athlete back then could not compete with the average athlete today when it comes to speed, strength, cardio. I think they're starting to breed superhumans now.
If you're just
at a young age, I'm talking about straight. I'm not talking about skill or technique or anything like that. I'm talking about straight physical output.
Yes, in measurable tests off of the basketball court, the interaction, the kind of contact and physical toll that they would have had to deal with at the beginning of their careers, most of these guys would already be gone because that's what happened to most of the guys back then. I mean, the bodies didn't hold up because it was just that much tougher.
Yeah.
And this whole philosophy of the outside shooting, this analytics driven thing. Well, do you know what their analytics never measured?
Defense.
It was the actual the determination and just the will of a group of guys who want to make it difficult for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
You watch most of these games during the season.
They're just sitting back and shooting 3-pointers.
It is. It's
just who can shoot the best point. That's what makes the team so special. You got a group of guys that don't care about the wear and tear on their body, and they're playing 110% every second they're out there. I mean, the amount of hands that you would see, they were playing like a pack of wolves, just swarming the fucking guy with the ball.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is that even the part of Denver's plan that is the out for dealing with the upfront doubles and things, they can't even execute it fast enough to overcome the recovery of the Wolves defense. And this is gonna force the entire league to they're gonna have to go back on the fallacy they created based on Steph Curry. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors doing what they did.
They made the league shift.
That was a one-off.
Yep.
This analytic approach where you just say, well, how much more valuable are 3-pointers than 2-pointers? And then make half of your shots 3-pointers every game. It doesn't, obviously, it's been demonstrated. It's kind of like when somebody in chess begins a new, they start making a point of playing a particular opening in a different order to get another line started. And then, most of the time the stuff ends up getting, they end up having to abandon it because somebody finds the way that the response from the opponent can diffuse it. And then it gets let go of it. And now, and I just think with the fans too, I think the NBA is they're discovering that trying to maintain this fad-based approach with the individual personality promotions. You can't just keep repeating that over and over again. That has to be like the H-bomb in your promotion arsenal. I don't think I've ever, you know what? I don't know if I've actually heard any of these ding-dongs say this, but in the 80s, the motivation behind Magic and Bird becoming the faces was the combination of the talent and what they actually needed to present to people because of the image of the league. I mean, it was bad. The general population saw it as basically, a bunch of giant drug addicts running up and down a floor. They really did not present a good image.
The NBA?
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It got really. And then the Magic Bird into the beginning of MJ's career, that just stirred it up in a way that's not reproducible. And what they need, I think they really do. They need to turn their focus toward, trying to actually promote a narrative of teams taking different approaches to their style of play, so that the different strategies are actively being worked out against each other all the time. Not so that there's this trend of everybody try to draft this, the guy that can, go on these 3-point shooting runs. And then it's not good. It didn't produce a good product. And most of the people that were fans in the 90s and the aughts have fallen away from their viewing of the NBA. It's undeniable. I mean, the numbers that were drawn, 20 and 30 years ago, when the games were, like the weekend games on the network television, the NBC Sunday games, those games drew so many viewers. And what they're doing now just it's not even close.
You got more people watching women's college basketball now
on occasion.
Katlin Clark on there.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I will say she is fun to watch because she balls like a guy when she's out there.
Yeah.
Like she really does. Well, like when you look how other females play and then you watch Katlin Clark, I don't know enough to say like she's better skill wise. I mean, she probably fucking is. But when you're watching her on TV from an entertainment perspective, she balls like one of the guys out there.
Yeah.
She really does.
Yeah, she's an entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
She's an entertainer. But I think for most people, it's the general delusion that gets presented in a lot of the opinions about the women's sports. Yeah. Especially, and it's really the WNBA. They're the ones that really have to take accountability for their nonsense.
Well, no, more women need to go support their women athletes. Then.
Well, and I
bet there's almost just as many guys, if not more, that watch women's sports. Because I think guys just care about sports.
No, men care about sports far more than women.
Yeah.
Women will never.
Even in the WNBA,
there are more male viewers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Women's tennis and women's golf. Are excellent.
Women's golf, dude.
And the crazy thing is that no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say my buddy's dad. Oh man, he used to always have. I'd go over there. He would have women's golf on the TV, and he would just always make comments about the skirts and the helmets that they wore. He was just a horny bastard.
Hey, some of them do. Some of them do. Dress a little more provocative than others, but. If you're watching to watch golf be played, the LPGA Tour it's top notch. I mean, these women, they're some of the best golfers in the world, regardless of sex. They do an excellent job, but at the same time, they fully understand that if they just would not ever have the delusion of thinking that they could ever like defeat
like one of the best men,
a men's tour player on even standing. Now you give them the distance break with the shorter tees, and sure, but they're playing.
But they're playing at a handicap.
They're playing two different games.
Exactly.
The men are being challenged with courses that challenge the physical limits of what a human body can do with a golf ball and a golf club. The women are doing that at the limitations of what women can do. It's just two different things.
There it is.
And you know
It's
what?
that simple.
You know what? That's crazy. Okay, and then the the women's tennis, they do an excellent job as well.
Yep.
And it's so crazy on both sides. You have these confrontations in the media from these absolute ding dongs with these agendas from sports entertainment destruction entities that will go unnamed, but you can figure out 4-letter acronyms and the like. The women that participate at the top of those two sports, they're absolutely clear about how nonsensical this whole women and men are the same stuff is. They don't want people to think that. They want everybody to understand. Serena Williams is probably the best example. There's numerous examples of her just completely deflating this for, televised interviews and whatnot. And no, I want people to just appreciate women's tennis. I am a women's tennis player, and I've had all this success, but the idea that that's the same as what the men are doing, it's not. So please stop doing it. I mean, the crazies they got to have their way.
They're not gonna
no
let it
matter
go,
how
dude.
removed from reality they get. It's always the way. And the WNBA just has to come to grips. I mean, the LPGA and the women's tennis,
they're making money.
They make money.
Yeah.
They make it. There is no, there's no reconfiguration of reality to allow for it. Yeah. There aren't enough people watching and enough advertisers and sponsors and just industrial participants in clothing and equipment and everything under the sun having to do with golf as it relates to women and their participation and enjoyment of it. It all operates on its own, independent of the hierarchy or the patriarchy or sexism or any of that stuff. I don't know what else be said about it. I mean, entity.
How long has the WNBA been on life support from the NBA?
Well, it's been on life support since day one because it was never an actual entity. It was a promotion that the NBA generated from within itself to promote women's basketball. And unfortunately, women's basketball isn't a professional sport. It's an exhibition sponsored by the NBA. It doesn't support itself. It's just undeniable. I mean, they take in 8 figures a year to just break even because they don't do it.
I don't think they're I'd be amazed if they're even breaking even.
The numbers that I've always seen as far as like the annual loss, it's usually between 10 and 20 million. Okay, so you have then you pile on top of that the absolute ignorance of making any claims to wanting to divvy up the revenue between the teams and the players like they do in the NBA. If you had to do what the NBA does, you would have to foot a bill. You would have to pay to play. There's nothing left over from the revenue. The revenue covers part of what it costs, and then the NBA covers the rest. And then that's just the break even. There's no profit.
Well, and then people get triggered when they see like Katlin Clark only makes $78,000 a year, and most of these women barely break $100K. Well, it's like, what do you expect?
Okay, and this is another.
There's no money to be made.
Goodness gracious! It's amazing how easy it is to get into how misunderstood the fundamentals of life are just by starting to even talk about sports, right? I just in sports in general, one of the things that I've absolutely become sick to death of are all of these. I mean, and it really is. It's an incestuous gaggle of low quality people. I'm just going to make that clear right now. You almost have to get anywhere in this realm. These media guys who I don't know exactly why, but they always have. They have all of these plans that should be carried out by all of these teams and these players, and this incessant repetition of Pay him what he deserves. Oh my God. It's just something that should not ever be mentioned with respect to entertainment of any kind. None of these, I don't think any of them. I don't know. There might be some. I have to allow for an exception, but I don't know that any of the people, that all of the names and faces that everybody recognizes,
men and women now,
and loves or hates, all in the sports media and the athletes themselves, the executives, the owners, any of them, all of them, the names and faces that you know, and you love or you hate them. I don't know that many of them really have any understanding of what the world over thought of people who were entertainers until the Industrial Revolution and all of this labor saving and leisure time creation started taking place. Do you know?
That's interesting, because when I think about it, like back then, people didn't really have any leisure time
Exactly.
to watch entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, did the people start entertaining others first, and then people like, oh, this is nice, I can just sit back, relax, not do anything, and then that's what really started the growth of people's leisure time in the day? Because now I would say most people are just doing 40 hours a week, and I don't know how many hours a day, like, no, not how many hours a day, I'm trying to think, like 24 hours in a day, you work 40 hours a week, and then you spend another probably 50 to 80 just leisure time in now is what I was getting at. I was trying to do some computations in my head of like the average person today, how many hours do they spend working compared to back then, what you're talking about, versus how many hours they have leisure time now. And I'd be willing to bet a majority of people are doing more time having like just leisure bullshit, not doing anything, watching TV, and you know what? I'm guilty of one of it too. Don't get me wrong. I turn on the show every now and then. I like logging into WoW, like playing for a couple hours.
Yeah. But what is, I don't know, just my overall impression of all of it currently is that most people aren't very happy with it.
Because they use it as an escape.
Yeah, they consume it and consume it.
Well, it's because people have used leisure time and entertainers to escape their own problems. It's like, it's almost like taking an antidepressant. It just blocks those feelings for a little bit until you go to bed, wake up, and then you fucking do it all over again the next day.
Yeah.
And then you sit back down, you start realizing, I'm single, or when my wife hates me, I just hate my life. Whatever the fuck it is, whatever your problems are, they all start to sink in. Let me turn on the TV. Let me turn on the PlayStation 4, whatever it is to block this. And now pretty soon, I just spent 8 to 10 hours playing video games while I'm dragging my ass for the 8 hours at work, just waiting to get back home so I can take my fucking antidepressant of leisure time. And it's actually pretty sad.
Yeah, and it's almost all done. I mean, I don't know. You get to the big group gatherings and all the psychos show up and everybody's, affected or disabled by whatever it is they're taking, and I don't really enjoy much of that anymore. I don't know that I really ever did. I don't know. I was gonna track back to what I was gonna say in a different way. But what?
Yeah. No, go for it.
See, people today, they want to because they have so little exposure to actually thinking and contemplating anything, because all they do is bombard their senses with stuff.
Yeah.
I actively make a point of, like, when I'm watching shows and videos, because I spend a lot of my time alone. I'm not really motivated to go out and do a lot of stuff, because a lot of the time most of the time when I get together with people, I want to have discussions like this. I want to be talking about something. I want my mind to be active,
stimulated
in a fashion that I think I was actually gifted with something that is useful and could benefit others. But most
people don't want that when they go out.
Most of the time when I'm around other people, that just never has an opportunity to take place. So I spend a lot of time alone. And I'm always trying to keep the same thing going when I'm spending time by myself. Now, I do have, I got, my science fiction shows and things that I will try to just calm myself down and just watch them to enjoy the story. But I even have a hard time doing that. So I guess I try to enjoy rolling the stuff over in my head over and over again. Today, I think they've got a severe misunderstanding of how people actually spent their time
back then
before.
Yeah.
And how they were motivated to spend their time.
People couldn't.
It's like,
yeah. You can't even comprehend the world without the internet or these gadgets or TV to distract you now. And I was just born in 91. I spent way too much screen time. Like, I'm one of them. I was born in that generation. And it's not, and I won't say it's obviously not your fault. Control like the world you're born into at the time.
No, you can't. You can't control that. And that's, what I'm leading up to is just basically illustrating a distinction that I think has some explanatory power for basically what we see now. People basically, I'll just put it this simply: entertainment for like monetary compensation was akin to prostitution. That's basically kind of where you were in the perception cast of general society. You would have your higher class, your aristocracy type people who would, isolate themselves, and they would have, they would basically pull people out of those ranks and give them privileges in order to be entertained away from everybody else. Now it's like the people, they don't find anything that doesn't require a monetary handover. Unless I'm paying for it, it can't be entertainment. It's really bizarre. And it's to such a severe degree that a lot of the people that they've been operating that way for so long that now their only entertainment is blithering about nonsense at bars. And that's why I just don't get it. I really have a hard time understanding the
well, you can't even talk about whatever you want at bars. They always say, don't talk about politics or religion at the bar.
Politics and religion. And it's like, okay, well,
what the hell can I talk about it then? If I'm having a beer, I feel like I should have the right to talk about whatever I want.
Yeah, the ability,
this is fucking America.
The ability to actually confront the foundational problems has been bred out of everyone. Because entertainment was always taking place in places where you actually had people who depended on each other to engage in the work that they basically are. By being in a trade, they promised to engage in a participation with everybody else in that community to but I mean, how do people think it worked when like plumbing was introduced? Did they think like the government came and installed city water everywhere? I mean, how did people think this stuff really worked?
People think the government invented everything.
People engaging in individual trades to accomplish the physical desired result of the thing, making the thing and having it work. People are so far removed from participating in anything like that they don't even understand how any of the problems they're being presented with now are generated.
I traded Pokemon cards when I was a kid. My generation learned how to barter.
Okay, sure.
I've been one of the last ones, to be honest.
But outside of Pokemon, in the real world, an absolute mental delusion was taking place that there was any Pokemon card worth paying money for outside of buying the packs to get cards.
Right.
The idea that there was ever a $10,000 Pokemon card, and I'm sure there's fucking ones that dwarf that.
Oh, dude,
that's a simple measure of the ignorance of how anything actually functions. Nobody who actually understands how money works does that.
Of bartering, though, how someone, when you always talk about Mises, the guy on the island, when the card reaches that extreme level of value, it still goes back to that fundamental rule of he's got something I want. Even if I'm paying $1 million for it, I feel like I still have the better deal. I got the better deal because I got the card that I wanted.
Okay.
So I get it. Money's
All right.
yeah. People don't understand how money works, but still fundamentally though, it's been the same since the beginning.
This is the big problem. There are layers to everything, and over time, essentially, the layers that people exist in now didn't exist when people had to deal with reality, and now people's perceptions of how things are produced, what value actually is. Value is something that you do. It isn't something that anything has.
I like that.
And it
value is
if you don't,
you do.
yeah, if you don't, you value something. The way that you signal to the person who has it how much you value it is by what you're willing to give in exchange. And unless you understand that's the basis of exchange, none of the problems that exist up here in floaty world, you'll never be able to even understand what the actual problem is, because you don't even understand how the environment in which this nonsense generates itself even came to be. You're too far removed from reality. And I mean, you can just see it. I mean, the people that are like that, who don't have this understanding, they're the ones that light up their screen and point the camera at themselves all day. It's basically like they're almost like animals who discovered mirrors.
You're calling out like every 18 and to 21-year-old chick right now. Probably even younger than that, sadly.
Oh, I'm sorry, but people that age and younger are, they're in the worst boat.
Makes me scared for my daughter when she gets that age. Imagine what it's going to be like in another 18 years.
Oh, my God, dude. I
don't even know what to do. I was talking about this.
Maybe I should
I was talking about this with my girl. We were like, about like what age you get them a phone. I'm like, I didn't get a phone till I was in high school, right? Now, to me, that's when I would want to get a phone. But now you see kids, they're running around. They look like they're in elementary school. They got the newest fucking iPhone. And she was explaining, it was like, if you don't get them that, well, then all the other kids have it and they don't. So then, you create all these other societal problems and shit. Like,
and it's dude, that right there, that is the perfect example of how dystopian this regime really is.
Yep.
Now, see, I went to a little private school in North Minneapolis.
So
St. Bridget's Catholic School. And then I went to De La Salle Catholic High School right on the Mississippi River. I believe it's still the only high school on an island in the Mississippi River in the country. Just a little shout out to my high school. But that situation where there's a have and a have not. When I went to St. Bridget's, it was all uniforms.
Yep.
Okay. So that diffused one of the problems.
Ooh.
There's no desire by the educational regime now to do anything that common sense to alleviate suffering. So just right off the bat, that nobody in these public institutions has any desire to reduce the suffering of any child to any degree. I don't care what they say about how they're underpaid or what kind of person you have to be to teach in these schools. That right there off the bat tells me they don't care. Schools,
that's interesting.
All schools,
really good point of like
every
how powerful the
single
really is.
school in the country would have kids wear simple uniforms that diffuse the class differences and all of the nonsensical pop culture clothing trends, and actually concentrate on trying to teach them the fundamentals of operating in the world and being a decent human being, instead of encouraging them to develop psychoses and become, sociopathic weirdos who their only interest is in making the biggest deal of however nonsensical their perception is. And that's a downward spiral to oblivion. And you can't tolerate it. It's not like you can have, it's not like you can turn society into like Republican versus Democrat and turn it into normal, functional, and sociopathic, destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
That group can't get very big before it starts to have everything implode around it. And that's what we're rubbing up against. I mean, this idea that young girls are 1 in 4, 25% are making claims to all of this tranny, bi, lesbian, just everything under the sun. 1 in 4
What
of our
ages are
poor
doing
girls is basically pre-high school graduation.
Jesus Christ. That's the first time I've heard that.
And who even knows?
statistic.
Who even knows if that result is real?
Right.
It could just be.
Could be higher, could be lower.
Is it being presented
So
in order
schools-
to make the ones who are doing that feel better about themselves? Is it being presented in order to convince kids who are not like that it's okay to do that and it might be better? Who the hell knows? That's what the whole problem with this is, and why that whole entertainment thing really got me, because all entertainment was local. Before the ability to broadcast radio and television
And go global,
all entertainment had to be engaged in locally. Even basically,
and I just want to ping off that real quick.
Okay.
But when it's built locally, what else does that build up? The community.
Well, and there's also a check on it that it won't grow unless the people value it, because an entertainer who comes into a town and does something that nobody likes won't be there very long, and so it won't be able to take root and infect everything. Oh man, what was I just gonna say?
Sorry, did I kill your train of thought?
We were talking about what the motivations,
Local
the motivations for before that,
before they started broadcasting shit.
Yeah. Okay. So before it was all local because I think it was actually before that, because it was coming off of that whole the 1 in 4 with the young women and the identifying, and whether or not the story is being genuinely presented, and what are the motivations behind the way that the story is presented. And then we were talking about the local entertainment thing and the methods. The most prolific way that you could actually present something to people in a non-local sense was writing, because there were no recordings. Well, not painting, not so much, because you actually have to see the object. But with writing, it could be reproduced and sent places. So you could have people all over the place enjoy reading a particular work all at the same time. So, but the limitations on that, it never really had access to the vampirism that it now has because of the technology.
Right.
And it really is.
Sometimes I wonder if the devil gave us the ability to make all these gadgets. He unlocked that part of the human brain.
Absolutely. It's in the Old Testament. All of the beginnings of civilization as we know it were all it was all information that was handed over. It was taught by essentially the first ones that fell. They polluted the pond. It was, and it's just when pride takes over, there are no ends you will not engage in if you believe it will deliver. There are no means you won't engage in if you believe they will deliver the end you're seeking. And that's what Satan is. Satan is any means necessary, believing in a delusional end.
I heard a good one from Pastor Joe, actually, that I think you'll like about it. It has to do with pride. And it was about this statement, agreeing to disagree, and how that's really based off pride. Because when someone says, I agree to disagree, they're basically saying, well, I still think I'm right. I'm not going to admit that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I didn't actually come to the conversation with any desire to find the truth about a thing. I came to represent a side.
Yep.
I came to represent a side, and to pursue the resulting motivations no matter what.
And it made me rethink that, because I have someone, like, I've said agree to disagree a lot. Usually when I feel like we're calling about, something like subjective.
It's usually, yes, it's an opinion. It's a response to an opinion quarrel.
Right.
Right? Exactly. Not when it comes to something that underpins a nonsensical position on something that is not opinion based. And what's amazing to me, just in general, is how often people will generate these campaigns without any desire whatsoever to actually understand the underpinnings. They're just engaged in it, and there are people that believe it. And
what was that? I'm sorry, everyone. Keep going. Thought I muted that shit.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Fucking alien.
The hell?
We're getting hacked, dude. The government.
Man.
Dude, that was the devil talking to you. Talking to us through this computer.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I've been sabotaged at many points along the way. So,
but you know what?
Wouldn't be a surprise.
You keep going, though.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have a mom that instilled faith in me. So, and apparently I was smart enough to maintain my faith despite the ego of my intellect. I never let go, but I did. I let my ego get a little inflated in my pursuit of school and thinking I could figure everything out. Just as an example.
Yeah,
I'm in high school, right? I'm top of my class. And one of the things it was an honor society thing, which, by the way, I don't think it's actually a very good idea. It should be done away with. I started up a tutoring. I basically started as part of my membership in the honor society. I decided that I would basically set up office hours in the library personally after school for anybody in the school.
Math, right? You were doing
for anything.
Okay. Damn. Confident guy.
Man, I helped.
What is that confident Phill now?
I helped so many people in my class over the 4 years that I was there in any subject, because I don't know. I just felt motivated to do that.
You got the academic.
It was
the book smart.
It was easy for me, so I felt like part of acknowledging that that isn't
acknowledging
it's
your
not,
gift.
It's not of me personally. I'm just the one who's lucky enough to have it. And you want to know how many people ever actually came for help, despite the numbers of students that I knew were struggling, which was the main motivation for doing it in the first place. One
showed you gratitude for it.
Well, no, just one came.
Okay.
For help. And this particular student was in my class, just had a hard time with everything. I mean, I basically could have just been like their sibling and gone home with them every day. That's how much help they actually needed. But I was only able to do what I could. What I could do. Having, I was also working in my uncle's liquor store. I did that my junior and senior year there, working 30 hours a week. Yeah. Well, when I could. I mean, actually, no, I was done with basketball. It was golf season, though. Golf season, I didn't get to work as many hours because we had practice after school and stuff. But I worked the weekends for sure. Got as many hours as I could. What in the world was all of that about?
About you sharing your gift.
Oh,
to people, is what it was.
Yeah, about the whole tutoring thing at school. And that was because, it was talking about going to a little private. Oh, and just how we were taught to treat others in that environment. Now it's always managed to get back around to where we were. Okay. And the difference now is that what we're being told is that no, we're not trying to make it a more comfortable environment for kids that are, actually from families that are of low economic status, right? For whatever reason, their parents just don't have a lot of skills. They don't make a lot of money, but their kids are here in the school, and they, kids should be able to go to school, especially in a place where the general community can provide a building and enough money to pay the handful of people that it takes to teach children. I'm telling you, most of these schools have way more staff than they actually need to teach that number of children, and most of them aren't any good at it.
Yeah, you know what we should watch sometime? We should watch clips of. I would love to see react to some of this. Did you ever? We don't have to get too far off topic here, but I just want to ask you: did you ever watch the Destiny Ben Shapiro? Like they went on Lex Friedman's podcast actually. And I didn't. They talked about a bunch of topics,
mostly because that
school was a big one.
That Destiny guy is one of the most obstinate, just like confused people I have ever heard. I don't understand why he's presented as ever being good at presenting a side of anything.
He remembers talking points better than most people on the left. But I want to say this real quick. Forgive me, Destiny, because I'm not going to remember your actually argument for it. But one of his big things about we're talking about like public schools and shit is how they need better air conditioning.
No, schools don't need air conditioning. They don't need
and
any.
How that the environment of that school, like being like uncomfortable in the classroom, how that affects the kid. Ben counted it with like basically just opening a wall. It doesn't solve problems like that.
And it doesn't. And to blame the behavior of the students I'm guessing that's what it was. He's like, oh well, we're cooking them to death. That's why they act this way. I mean, what kind of? It was some kind of an idiotic premise like that, right?
Not that exact.
Children all over the world have gone to school without air conditioners for thousands of years. What? This absolute refusal to confront reality is really irritating, and he's one of the best at it. He doesn't. I don't think I have ever watched him or heard him actually make a coherent statement about anything. And if he did, it was by happenstance. It wasn't because it was some kind of a central pillar of something that he was like standing up for. It was like common sense, everyday things that a 5-year-old would be able to tell you. And then on a lot of points where 5-year-olds know exactly what's going on, he is in absolute opposition to that reality. So I wanted to circle back to that whole description of what it is that we need to be doing in these schools to make allowances for all of this psychotic, sociopathic, reality-bending nonsense.
Let's try to make a checklist. First one, uniform, as we talked about.
Well, those were just the things that could be done to actually, or that used to be done, things that have been undone in order to make things worse. Right. That's exactly. I mean, and that. Geez, I actually have to modify what I said before when I said that none of these people have any desire to actually benefit any of these. No, I think that there's a high likelihood that a good portion of them actually desire to inflict suffering on your kids, because the fact that any organized group of adults ever got together, having watched children behave with themselves, that it was ever a good idea to remove the uniforms from schools is absolute insanity to me. Just right now in the moment, having not thought about it earlier. I mean, because you go back to the 50s, I'm pretty sure every school had a uniform.
Even public schools.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was standard practice. Because of the foresight of the people looking at the interactions between the kids and knowing that they're going to do whatever they can to differentiate themselves and form cliques, because that's what their stupid parents and those stupid parents were at least bright enough to know, well, you know what? We don't want our kids be like that. They were actually still high on the shot of we're going to make a better world coming out of World War II, right? So they actually thought that doing some of these manipulative things make the world better. I think you have to accept the world as it is and find out what the actual relationships really are. And people's lack of understanding that is what leads to all of these problems. But back to the school. This school checklist. So we went
school checklist.
So it's like you have the uniforms.
Number one.
You have the uniforms to eliminate the distinctions that give people targets for the bullying and things based on your economic situation, right? The kids usually find out anyway because they don't know how to not find out or not let people know because they're innocent, you know. Most of them are, you know, pretty innocent. But now today, instead of preventing, you know, doing things to basically homogenize the student body for the purposes of teaching students, that's no longer what it is. Now it's this community. It's this community center where yes, you have school, but it's not for treating children like students. It's for accommodating all of the nonsense that actually makes them targets. And I'm sorry to say, but when you make yourself a target, it's because you're doing something that's out of the norm. And this stuff is out of the norm because previously the norm was recognized as basically best practices. This is like a company that finds the absolute best alloy mix to make whatever part it is they're making, and then saying that, you know what, we could actually do it better, deviating away from the best thing. It's just like, how? I mean,
we can make diamonds better by growing them in a lab. That's a good example.
Oh my God, it's just terrible. Diamonds have you're diving into like 4 or 5 dystopian perception bending things going on with the diamonds. Good grief. Yeah, I could go on and on about that too. But yeah, this whole school thing.
Well, it's a good correlation though, huh, for what you're talking about.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, basically anything that's in the world right now isn't perceived correctly. Almost everything has been, I think it's, have you heard of, oh man, you're going to love this. This will get get the crazy Phill clip off.
Okay.
I started coming across this demon face syndrome.
Ooh, what the hell is that? Demon face syndrome?
Well, okay. For basically all of time, there are the stories, you know, they're not, I'll just tell you. I mean, the people, they come across individuals and their faces don't look like normal faces.
Okay.
And the one that has been, you know, thrown up in thumbnails the most is the one where it's basically the corners of the mouth.
He's got the Joker smile going on.
It's almost like they have you remember that toothbrush commercial where they said, well, why do you need to have a flat top head to brush with? Like their mouth goes back like that, almost like they're a South Park Canadian, right? Like they got a flip top head. So their smile from the front looks like it goes all the way out here, and then their eyes come all the way back around their head. So they look like they got these weird like lizard eyes or whatever. And, you know, there are anecdotes. That's the word I was looking for before. But they go back just forever. You know, people claiming to have had these experiences. And, you know, if you go back to the Bible, you have the experiences of, you know, the apostles traveling on the road from one place to another and actually being accompanied by angels. So if you have any faith, you know, I was brought up Catholic. I consider myself a Jesus-believing Christian. I don't know if I'm in the Catholic Church or what I am, but I know that I take to heart a lot of what I was raised with in the Catholic Church. So I believe that those are things that took place. So I have an attachment. I keep a place on the mental bookcase for the supernatural beings. Mm-hmm. I believe that they do. They act.
Yeah.
And they're real. Too. And the people do witness them from time to time. But the story of it is that just like in the past 3 months or so, all of a sudden now you have these medical journals publishing these things to create a record of the fact that it's a medical thing. So now, if anybody out there who's on the border who might actually get driven in the correct direction by having an experience like that, now because of these freaking idiot screens and people's absolute inability to seek anything. All they do, they just TikTok. There's never actually like a point to anything they're watching. It just comes through their app. They don't look for anything. They're going to go on there, and because this stupid approach to trying to show that it's some kind of a they understand that this is a condition, that just to have this handful of people have it. All of these people that could get pushed in the right direction are now, they're going to go to this. It's going to say, no, that's just like, I don't know, you must have it.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, you've got an ingrown hair in your brain somewhere.
Yeah.
There's not an actual phenomenon that you're witnessing with your eyes. Your brain is playing a trick on you because of stress or some other stupid made up thing that they come up. It's just absolute. I was just absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah, because nobody ever wants to admit that it's their fault or that they did something wrong or that they're lazy. So they like.
Well, they don't want to.
So when you hear that you have a medical condition, see, I knew it wasn't me. I was born this way.
Yeah, but see, this is far more sinister.
I know.
This isn't even something that you're doing. This is convincing you that you're not a witness to something, which I think is even worse, because there are demonstrated, effects on the brain that basically just cause people to not have any control. How in the world do you demonstrate that what somebody experienced at a point in time is them being victimized by some short circuit in their brain? How would you ever demonstrate that? That's not science. That's a cover story from controllers utilizing this network of hardware that they've created to make people think that they're enjoying themselves, which gets me back to the local entertainment thing from before and looking at all of the people who now sit atop this technological pyramid, making Jay-Z and Beyonce, what are they at, 2 billion? You really think that's the result of a merit-based system of elevating the most talented people who appeal to the biggest audience with the best motivations, and that just so happens to be transmitted through these things because other things just happened to happen? No, it's a pyramid built of cell phones and cell towers, and
now the overlord can talk to you directly whenever he wants.
Production companies and fiber optic cable, and
I do miss me my fiber internet when I lived in Minneapolis. Fuck, a gig up, gig down speed. Man, I could stream video games in like 4K.
I guess that's kind of why I've glommed on to the golf thing. Sure, it's been completely infested with all of the same absolute garbage, but do you know what? At the heart of it, it's still you swinging a golf ball, to swinging a club to strike a golf ball.
I feel that way about any physical activity.
You know what? And I'm kind of frisbee golf. I don't know if I want to.
A few times.
I don't know if I want to try and get back into it again.
I can see you. You're lanky, so I can see you being really fucking good.
I did.
Taking a few steps and really whipping.
I had quite a bit of fun playing some frisbee golf, but that was years ago.
Man, well, boy, Professor Phill, we're over an hour already, but
we're over an hour already.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do some like quick fire stuff, because this is just stuff I've been writing down.
I'm sorry, I feel like we could go on forever, but I know we probably didn't get to some things that you wanted to talk about. But all right, rapid fire.
Okay, just as a title, men and trends.
Men and trends.
Yeah.
Okay. What are my thoughts on that? Or just
well, I got one in particular that really, I don't know. It just somehow reached me in the past couple days. Do you have any idea what drizzle means?
Never heard of it.
I somehow wandered over into this bizarre realm of all of this stupid relationship crap. Oh God, these some of the, just I don't know. But I came across this and I started to get a little confused. It apparently it has something to do. Now we're in the soft men era.
Mm-hmm.
We're labeling it now.
Yeah.
Now
it's
that
the era of the femboy.
it's just how in the hell are these morons with these TikTok accounts and all this shit? How are they determining anything? I mean, nobody who resides in reality has ever heard of this, and yet it's.
Men are no longer required to be as hard as our ancestors need to be, and a lot of that has to do.
That was kind of was kind of the point. So and that's one of the most bizarre things about all of these artificially generated conflicts by the bankster gangsters. Mm-hmm. The whole point of industrialization and having a Republican democracy or a democratic republic, whichever garbage can label you want to put on this stupid place. The whole point, all of the motivations were always to decrease the amount of violent death.
These damn toxic,
and they just never actually get around to doing it. Now, well, as a percentage of the population, the violent death is a lot lower. Now everybody we need to somehow overcome being made fearful by seeing their presentations of it to us and allowing them to bend the perception through all of these lenses that they use. And that's kind of what, I mean, I don't know. This is what I wrote. Adopting and promoting the practices of these trends it's the imitation of women. That's what it is. If you're a man and you're out there in the world, and oh my God, and then I run into this Joey B. Tunes guy. He does all of these compilations of these ridiculous freaking people and does little commentaries over them or whatever. The NPC streamer thing. If you're a man and you do that, you are basically imitating a woman.
You're talking about the VTubers, where they have like an animated character on there.
No, it's even worse than that. It's worse than that.
I'm not familiar. I don't know if I've seen these NPC streamers then.
No, NPC streamers. They basically, what they do is they make themselves up to be like a plain come across it person in a video game, an NPC.
Yeah.
And what they do is they go out in public and they pretend to be that NPC. I saw a guy in one of these things. He's just out there on a corner I think he was in Miami, but he's just standing there in the street with a black tank top on, and he's got his hair done in some ridiculous manner. And he's just bouncing up and down and saying and doing roses.
Okay.
Roses. My name is Butterfly NPC. How are you? Roses, roses, roses.
Yeah.
So like, what? What? You barely qualify as a human being. What is wrong with you? What? How is this a thing?
Because people find it entertaining.
I mean, did they figure out a way to actually like quantumly scramble your brain with it? Did they remove pieces with a teleporter? Are there teleporters in these things?
There might be.
I mean, holy crap. You got Dr. Bishop on Fringe. His dystopian partner removed parts of his brain and he turned into a weirdo, but he was still super smart and he got his pieces of his brain back. But I don't know what the hell has happened with these people. It's like some kind of a quantum scalpel teleported parts of their freaking brains out of their heads. So, and then, other ones, the MGTOW, this stupid red pilling nonsense, anything having to do with assigning Greek letters to groups of men. I mean, it's
alpha
all,
male,
oh my
male,
God. It just does absolutely nothing for me. I don't think any actual, no real points have been made through any of this. Because what's happened? I mean, I remember when red pill started to become this phrase, right?
It's still,
and then MGTOW, I don't know how many years ago, MGTOW. I wondered what that was for a while because I didn't go looking for it. I don't remember
that one.
Men going their own way, MGTOW. You got these, you got these boobs on. And it's always the same stupid thing. It's like there's this set of preconditions to joining, to like identifying yourself. It really is. You know what this is? This is like, these things are like, they're like, I don't want to say butterfly net. No, they're like bug zappers for just less intelligent people in opposition to all of the other stupid shit. And basically all they did is make their own shit piles and got nothing done. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any of this trending stuff in women's behavior getting any better either. I mean, this stuff is psychotic. I don't know. I just don't really know where to go with any of that. You got any weird trend things that you've seen come up? Because that NPC streamer thing
I've never even heard of
holy
NPC
crap!
streamer,
It blew.
dude.
Well, dude, it gets way worse.
I've seen
that
the
guy.
VTubers.
That guy is just he's just kind of being an innocent dipshit, and people are sitting there. They're doing the emojis across the screen, and he's getting donations.
I actually do have a trend I've seen. We'll try to go like maybe 5 more minutes and wrap it up. Have you seen the fucking social media going off over this woman that says she'd rather run into a bear than a man in the woods?
I did. I don't know. I didn't know that's what it was.
I don't know the context. I've read different fucking things, right? But so it's been manipulated, twisted, turned into whatever.
Yeah,
basically, you can boil it down to a woman said on some podcasts that she would rather run into a bear than another man in the middle of the woods. And to me, that's like no shit. I don't know. When you look at like, just think about the situation that you in. What are the what kind of guy is going to be in the middle of the fucking woods to begin with?
Okay,
like,
I don't know. To anybody who ever sees
this whole
or
silly
hears this
question blew the fuck up, dude.
Okay.
Oh, but it's gone everywhere. I can't believe how much attention it's gotten.
Maybe I'm not that smart. But this is just a piece of advice to everyone. I don't. You can hate things that I've said. I know I take some pretty rough stabs at women, but it's because what's being presented is delusional, and I know that at heart you're really not that way. You should take a stand, against some of this nonsense.
Exactly.
But the lesson is when you see something so stupid as to almost make you physically like jump out of your chair or fall out of it, would you rather run into a bear or a man in the woods? It's a perception measure. Okay, it's not a question to actually find out what anybody thinks. What they're doing is they're measuring how effective their campaign of nonsense has been. And the higher the proportion of women who say something as stupid as I'd rather run into a bear in the woods,
have men perceived as
that's mission accomplished.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, I can't believe that you've been able to do it, since every idiot has one of these fucking things.
You just dissected it in 2 seconds.
I don't think I let an Effenheimer go the entire time until right there.
No, you definitely did.
Dang.
I never thought about like that. Granted, I didn't give this question that much thought. I've just seen it all over the internet. But it's going to show you give these things just 2 seconds of thought, and you realize it's all it is figuring out what someone's perception is on men or the world.
It blows me away.
Yeah.
How dumb people really just are. Like, as far as
someone who probably has who has brothers and good relationship with their dad would probably rather run into the man who's had good experience with men in life. Yeah. Now you have someone who's gone through domestic abuse, whatever. Yeah, they're probably going to choose the bear based off their past experiences.
No, I got to ask you about a current event thing and whether or not you've had much exposure or have looked at it at all.
All right. What's up?
Well, it's a combo. It's Ukraine, Russia, and Israel, Gaza.
I haven't.
Okay.
No,
I'm just going to tell you.
I'll just be honest with you.
You don't need to know any of the details of it. All you need to know is that there are 2 sides being presented, and a lot of nitwits, abusing historical examples, and pretending that they're able to decode what is going on, right? And I don't know what to think about anything that's going on over there. But there is one thing that I have picked up on, and it's concerning this Israel-Gaza and the way that these protests began and the responses and the new activities being undertaken by the people in DC. The the prism of Republican Democrat on Israel, I almost feel like it's been blacked out. There's no ability to decipher what in the world they're thinking. There's a huge wave of increasing commentary and attempts at historical accounting for this notion of Zionism, the fact that there are different parts of it. What the guy who first used the word was actually talking about when he wrote about it. This is 150 years ago or something. But the one thing that there are all of these claims that Israel is genociding the Palestinians in Gaza. And the whole labeling of Palestinians and how they use that and whether or not all of that stuff is up in the air for me. The one thing that I have come to a strong conclusion on is that, one, I don't trust our politicians in the United States as far as I can throw them. They're the ones that are operating in concert with the Federal Reserve, which is the basis of essentially, outside of the occult ritualistic garbage that they all participate in, the Federal Reserve is the center of their machine. So I know that they have absolutely no desire to help anybody other than themselves, and that nothing they propose to do will ever do that. So I put that in parallel against the leadership in Israel, and I say, well, how likely is it that anything the Israeli government is doing is in the best interests of Jews or Muslims or Christians or atheists or anybody living in Israel? I know the leadership in Gaza, these Hamas maniacs, I know they don't have anybody's best intentions because they're absolutely insane. They don't even try to make it appear as if there's any order. And the reason that I'm saying that about the leadership in Israel is that there's too many times where you're given the breaking news narrative, and then it's like everything that the sides of whatever the last thing was, whatever it was that they were underpinning their positions about whether or not we spend or raise the rates or send something there or whatever it is we're doing, the teeter-totters they're always at different, from the one to the next, it's always a different, there's no basis that any general consideration of how we behave is there is none. It's like, I don't know, there's like the black table, the Black Panther sand table. It's like they're just standing over it and there's just waves of sand moving up and down. Like, well, now this one's over here. There's no flat standard of anything. And there are so many control structures in place now that your ability to see through it,
you can't do it.
It's absolutely
There's
insane.
too many fucking layers.
You have to be so girded against all of the different levels of interference that I just wish that the crazies out there like me that say the most ridiculous stuff, that people could break themselves rejecting it out of hand to me, because there must just not be that many people who are at all interested in thinking about what's the epistemological basis. And then,
most people don't even know what that word means. Me neither.
There's no building of anything on top of anything. It's just this morass of, I think that's why they're so obsessed with dark matter and dark energy. I think that there's actually something to it. It's not what the scientists say it is, but it does. There just has to be something there that has the ability to manifest itself in a way that we can perceive it directly, because this whole idea of things going in and out of dimensions and that stuff is all just nonsense. There's no two-dimensional space, because that excludes it from the definition of space, which has volume. 2 dimensions only has area. And there's no 4-dimensional space, because that's nonsensical. Our experience of the 3-dimensional volume is 3 orthogonal axes. If you try to introduce a 4th one that operates independent to the other 3, there's no such thing. That's one of those objective things. X and Y axis, Z going through, you've got a box with
There it
8
is.
quadrants in it. That's a volume. It's the only way to define a volume, unless you use a different coordinate system, but it always works back to 3 dimensions in XYZ coordinates. It doesn't, there's no 4-dimensional anything. These people they're not investigating any higher plane of existence to answer the meaning of life. These people know what the meaning is for them, and it's taking from you to engage in the most consumptive, pointless bullshit ever, and then laughing about it afterwards. Why do you think these people are always having all of these weird ritualistic parties? It's because they get bored doing whatever it is that they pretend to do to accomplish whatever they've promised people they're going to accomplish. And when you get bored being a liar and you're not really doing anything, that's where your brain goes. Your brain goes to demented, perverted, ritualistic garbage in pursuit of power, because you realize you don't have any, and so you think you want to get some.
So
But
you do whatever it takes to get
every
some.
sense of
And then
power,
that's where they start wearing those masks and shit and those parties.
every sense of power that people think they attain here isn't real. There's only interactions with other people.
And that's the real type of power.
Yeah, and if
can
you
have.
don't,
if you can have an interaction with someone, you have power. Phil, thanks for coming on here tonight, brother. That was fun, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I
no,
missed
that
ya.
was a good time.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and I think we actually got to some like kind of more mundane stuff that actually people connect with, as opposed to trying to be conceptual about everything. Yeah.
If this episode made you laugh, give it a like. If this episode made you learn, give it a share. And we'll see you next time on Philly's Black Market. And I choose the Dog Life. The Dog Life chose me.
Philly out.
Peace.